When The Last of Us was first announced, I was skeptical. Was this going to be yet another tale feeding off of cliché zombie consumerism by pitting a dejected band of human survivors against an endless mob of opaque, infected, cannibalistic creatures? It turns out not. My uncertainty turned to intrigue when award after award started to drop for the title, and I realized that I was the only one of my friends not playing it. So I grabbed a copy, and I started playing the game, and I was hooked. From the Austin escape to the Boston remains to careening through Colorado and trekking to Salt Lake City, The Last of Us mixed masterful, emotional, cinematic narratives with gripping, terrifying gameplay, which penetrated my heart and threatened to rip my soul out of my body and eat it. I really, really want to believe in the Fireflies. The Last of Us not only changed the landscape of gaming, but it changes each and every PlayStation gamer who decides to join Joel and Ellie on their post-apocalyptic, dramatic journey. And now, the same studio that brought The Last of Us to the rest of us is employing their Naughty Dog swag to continue their storied and award-winning work on the iconic and adventure-filled Uncharted franchise. Obsession-driven, treasure-seeking, sacrifice-ridden, quip-given Nathan Drake is coming out of retirement for somewhat of a personal journey in pursuit of a historical conspiracy behind a fabled pirate treasure. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End looks like it might just be Nathan Drake's most fascinating adventure yet. On this episode of Conversations with Creators, I will sit down and discuss these two gaming masterpieces with Evan Wells, co-president of Naughty Dog, Neil Druckmann, Naughty Dog's creative director, Bruce Straley, game director, and co-lead game designer Anthony Newman. I must begin our conversation today with a disclosure. I am not objective about either of these games, even a little bit. I am extraordinarily good friends with Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker, who are Ellie and Joel in The Last of Us. The Last of Us, when it came out 2 years ago, became my absolute favorite game of that year. And I'm not the only one who felt that way. You may not be aware of this, but you've won a number of awards. I imagine that if there is an award to be given, you have it. And I wonder, when you were making The Last of Us, and any one of you can answer this, when you were making The Last of Us, did you expect that it was going to be what it became?
Quite the opposite.
Yeah.
We thought it was gonna tank. We thought we were gonna ruin the name and image that's been so like heartily built for years and blood, sweat, and tears of a team of what Naughty Dog meant and what kind of games, and we thought we were runing Naughty Dog's
The joke throughout production would say is like the downfall of Naughty Dog.
This is it.
This is the downfall. This game is the downfall of Naughty Dog.
Why? What about it?
Specifically, like a big part of it was on the mechanical side. I thought we'll be lucky to scrape by with like an 85 Metacritic, like 82 Metacritic or something, just because like it wasn't gelling, like it wasn't coming together, you know? So it was really like kind of a set of like really lucky breaks in terms of gameplay decisions we made that really kind of made everything fall into place and turned it into a fun game.
Do you recall the moment that where it switched from we're doomed to, oh, this works, we can play it? Is there like a specific thing you can recall?
GM'd, right?
Yeah, it was like a couple weeks before or something. It was about it. There were a couple little moments here and there that would pop up that you're like, okay, that was cool, but oh my, this is all horrible over here. Don't look over there.
Actually, I remember it's like we're pretty close to wrapping up, and there's one guy that used to work at Naughty Dog, left for a while, came back, and he came up to us and was just gushing, and he's like, I've never been so attached to characters.
Yeah.
And it's like, as I finished it and I watched someone else playing it, I'm looking at like Ellie and Joel at the beginning of the game. They're such different people.
That's right.
And it's like, and I couldn't feel it when I was playing it, but they changed so much.
Yes.
And we also had Tegan, who was on Uncharted 3, and he had a similar reaction. It was like, guys, I don't know what you did, but it's like, it's one of the most intense emotional games I've ever played. And that's for the first time we're like, okay, maybe we're okay, maybe we'll be all right.
Yeah, because I wasn't just invested in like my character. I wasn't invested in just staying alive and like getting to the next checkpoint. But it was so important to me to like maintain the relationship and like take care of that. Was that baked into the story structure from the beginning? Did you want the players to feel like that? I mean, was that...
When these guys came to Christoph and me with the pitch for the game, that was the core of the idea. It was, we are going to make a game that is building a relationship across the entire experience. That we've done it in the past where it's just a mission or two, but we want to build this relationship across the whole game and see what kind of game that would be like. And that's what we made.
The most kind of intense love you can have is between a parent and a child.
Yes.
And it just comes natural. It's something biological, it just happens. We're like, how close can we come to that through this game? So at the start of the game, these two characters barely know each other, don't even like each other. And by the end of it, they have the most intense love where they're willing to make the most ultimate sacrifices to rescue one another.
One of the like incredibly realistic parts of that is the melee combat that you worked on. And I thought that you captured in like disconcerting detail and reality the struggle to survive in that environment. From things like, I remember going through entire levels and just thinking, I'm screwed. I have 2 arrows and 4 bullets. There's no way I get through here.
A big part of creating this relationship between the two of them and forging that over the course of the game is putting the two characters under a lot of pressure, you know? And so like a lot of the game mechanics are designed around this feeling of a very grounded sense of threat that's coming at you in the world. So part of that is, like you say, like how we hand out resources, how many bullets you get, how many crafting items you get. But we really wanted every encounter with, you know, as many as just a couple of guys to feel like a threat, you know, and because of that, that really makes the relationship between these two characters a lot stronger. And we also put in a lot of mechanics where the two characters help each other. Like Ellie can rescue you, you have to rescue her from like being attacked by an infected or something. And so in that way, in kind of like a generative way through the gameplay, we were able to like continually just reinforce that relationship.
So I asked Ashley after I'd played the game, and Ashley and I play role-playing games together, and I asked her like, how much time did you spend like kind of in Ellie's body? And she's like, a lot, because we did so much of it mocap. And Ashley told me that it was exhausting the way that performing is emotionally exhausting, to be moving around. And were you able to do more with your characters because you had actors who were actually embodying these characters? Or is that kind of like in the script from the beginning and you're like, actors do your jobs, just interpret it?
Well, the script is written in kind of a different way than film or sometimes even TV is. We have the whole outline. We know what the structure is, where we're going with the story, with the themes and the characters, but we write as we go. So as a level is being designed and built, we'll write the scripts for that sequence. And so much of figuring out those characters, like especially those first few scenes we did with Joel and Ellie, it was Ashley and Troy that really brought them to life. And in bringing them to life, they kind of answered a bunch of questions, made some significant choices about those characters, and that as we're trying them out on the stage, we will switch the scenes up. We will change them based on the choices the actors are making.
Do you have a rough idea of how many hours you were in like mocap production for what we actually got to see in the game?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, of shoot days, it's probably more than 2 months, right? I mean,
wow.
And that's maybe just for the cinematics. That's not even counting the stunts and the in-game.
Yeah. So it's exceeds what you would expect from like a big summer blockbuster motion picture. Like, I mean, usually you're in production on that for 3, maybe 4 months. So the game is released and blows up. Like, I mean, it's the another thing you may not be aware of. Everybody loves it, and it's epic.
we get jealous of this whole thing, by the way, because we don't get to play the game. That we spend so much time making, like we know it to the point that like we see all the bugs. Like he spends so many hours in those last few weeks, months of just every single day drilling. Yeah. I'm looking at one specific area. He's looking at the entire game. He's looking at melee. He's looking at all the performances and how things are tying together with gameplay. So we have our blinders on and we never get to see the game in this way.
That's why I like watching Let's Play videos where people are playing because that's the closest I'll ever come to experiencing it firsthand, is seeing their reaction and be like, okay, that's how the scene works. It works on that level, because I can't experience it on that level.
Now, I have moments where, even when the level's still in block mesh, we don't even have the performance back from the stage yet, the audio's all off, and I can feel, this is gonna be, this is special. Right here, this is special. Like this little thing, let's preserve this, let's just keep pushing for that. And all you're trying to do in production is try to like hold on to those little moments and keep fostering
tie
those.
them together.
Yeah, that's really what it is. So in a way, we do have all of that, but it's weird and fragmented.
I feel really sad for you that you don't get to experience. You guys, it's a really great game. I have not played another game ever or like before or since that affected me on that level. And I think it fundamentally changed what we expect from video games. Well, so now I have expectations for Uncharted 4. So does that affect the way that you approach it? Have you not thought of this until I planted it in your heads just now?
And we came off of Uncharted 2, which won some awards as well, and had all those expectations when we went to do The Last of Us. And the only thing we know how to do is just ignore all that and make the game we want to play.
I think Uncharted and Last of Us share a thematic idea in a way, in that the theme of sacrifice comes up a lot. And at the same time, they could not be more different. So as a director, what do you bring from this like kind of intimate, intense experience that translates itself to a bigger and a broader high action pulp hero experience? Or you could disagree with me and say that I disregard your premise, Wil Wheaton.
It's hard because you're right, it is a different genre, it is a different tone. We kind of joke around about having to, like crank it back up again, get the high action, the tropey, action adventure sense from that Uncharted is like really known for, and we love about Nathan Drake. We want buildings to collapse, we want helicopters fighting at it, we want tanks and craziness, but it also has the intimacy in the characters, etc. So it straddles both realms, and coming from The Last of Us, it's difficult to try to retain the intimacy and the characters, but at the same time get the bombacity. And it's also difficult to look at a team and how the team has evolved over time, to go like, oh, we now get what The Last of Us does, let's put that into Uncharted, but it doesn't quite work.
And we had the opposite problem on The Last of Us, coming off Uncharted and trying to say, okay, this is going to be this really small, and it's going to have set pieces, but they're intimate set pieces. And that was a long transition to get the team to say, it's okay to think on a smaller scale. And we finally did it, and they fully embraced it. And then it's like, okay, everything you learned in The Last of Us, forget that. We got to go big again. We got to go with it. But the other thing we're trying to bring to Uncharted is to really find the humanity with these characters. Like you mentioned obsession and sacrifices. There is something with Nathan Drake and the people he's related to that there is a cost. There's a cost on going on these adventures. So straddling that tone and trying to find the right space for it, where it's still pulpy, it's still fun, it still has a charm, but there's still a reality to these characters. There's still the intensity of that relationship.
You can choose not to answer this. There is a fan theory that I subscribe to that I actually think is really terrific, which says that The Last of Us and Uncharted take place in the same world, and that you've heard this, and that the virus that spreads in The Last of Us actually originated in Uncharted, and everyone from Uncharted is dead. Would you like
the El Dorado virus?
That's the one.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to comment on that?
Anthony, I think you were responsible for that newspaper clipping in
You're the one who did that?
Rusty Pelican, right?
Yeah, that was my thing. So the funny story there, I don't know how many people know the story, but basically it was towards the end of Uncharted 3, and I was actually the designer on the pub brawl level. And I asked Neil if it was okay, so it's really all Neil's fault. if we put like a little hint at The Last of Us in the pub, like on a newspaper or something. Yeah. And so finally we kind of all forgot
the
about
thought
it.
was The Last of Us would be announced by the time Uncharted 3 came out.
Yes.
And then we pushed the announce of The Last of Us until after Uncharted 3 comes out, and we forgot about this newspaper clipping that was still in the game. So we have all this like these hints going out about The Last of Us, and we're about to announce it, like we're a week away, and then somebody finds a newspaper clipping and makes the connection. And we're like in some 2-hour meeting, and I get a text from one of the designers, and it's like, cat arrow bag. Like cat arrow bag. And I show it to Evan, and his eyes just go wide. And we have like 10 more minutes in this meeting, and we're just like sweating. And I come out, and I see almost every person is on NeoGAF reading this thread about this thing. And I come to the design pod where Anthony jumps out of his seat. He's like, I just want to say, you told me it was okay. But the great thing is, like, we had just released Uncharted 3, so no one thought we were making another game. So they're like, oh, Naughty Dog must be helping Sony Santa Monica. They can't be making another game.
Yeah. It actually somehow strengthened the theory that it was Sony Santa Monica and not us, which was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But if you go back through The Last of Us, there is actually a part in the Pittsburgh area where we reuse that pub. You come at it from the back, so it's a little bit strange, but and it's in the dark, so you might not notice it. But that same pub is all like wrecked up and has trash all over the place.
If I'm understanding you correctly,
Yeah, it's all true.
it's
Yeah,
all
exactly,
true.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Uncharted 4 is just a dream. They're all already dead.
They're all already dead.
I'm gonna get so much Reddit karma for this.
Yeah.
After the work, you know, the like tremendously satisfying dramatic storytelling experience of The Last of Us, I would expect some of that to wash into the upcoming Uncharted, into Uncharted 4, that we might see more of his character moments and more of that. Is that a safe bet?
Yeah, I mean, our approach for Uncharted 4 has been like, okay, let's look at the first 3 games as setups and to say, how do we pay all those threads off in Uncharted 4? How do we really kind of get into the core of who this character is? Yeah. But also it's like, how do you kind of, again, without revealing anything, wrap up all these journeys? Right. How is it all coming to a head?
There's a moment in one of the Uncharteds where just like looking at stuff, and I don't want to move because it's so beautiful, and I don't want to trigger what the next action is going to be. There are moments in The Last of Us where I didn't want to move because I was terrified of what was going to happen. I would love to hear a little bit about your art design process and how you choose, because your games are so cinematic.
A lot of it starts with, again, the story. A lot of it's motivated from what game mechanics fit to what environments you're going to go through. I mean, kind of like old school games where you had levels, the snow level, the lava level, the ice, you know, like.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, we want to kind of show off what our artists can do at Naughty Dog. So starting with the story, it goes like, well, we kick around ideas like, where can we go? What is this? What does the tone of the world even provide? What can we do in The Last? Where's possible? And then we go for Uncharted, the same thing. It's like, well, how crazy can we get? What makes for good gameplay? What makes compelling spaces to move around in? And then you start looking at the story and say, well, where's our character at? Is it a high moment? Is it full of tension and drama? Is it a low point? Did they lose everything? Did we strip them away in their character? So now they're at this point, a turning point in the story where you're like, okay, how do we emphasize all of that? How do we parallel those feelings inside of the art design?
We'll also let tech kind of drive us sometimes too. Like we'll say, what is a real challenge for our programmers to render? Like, you know, on Uncharted 2, we were like going to tackle snow and ice, and then 3, we were going for the desert look, and so sand and the way it moves is very challenging. And with 4, we were going back to the jungle because we have the PlayStation 4 to just really push a lot more polygons and just have massive density. So oftentimes tech will help influence it as well.
And there's a lot of like independent people who are all kind of pushing their own goals, you know. So we have a guy, he's one of our cinematic animators, and he has this really strong film background where he makes like short films that are in all these competitions and stuff like that. And so he came in and just kind of independently said, like, I really want us to change how we do cameras, like across the board. So he brought this kind of like cinematic literacy into our technical process, you know. And I think it's because of our culture where we really encourage everyone to like bring what they have to the table.
There is, especially in the Uncharted series, there is this like, I am inside a film. Do you find yourselves ever having to pull back from like, that's just too, we can't do that, that's ridiculous?
We'll constantly ask ourselves, have we lost the characters? Like once something gets too big and you're more focusing on how ridiculous it is and like, I don't buy this anymore. Like I'm losing the thread. I'm losing the threat. Then we'll talk about, okay, what is it about the sequence that's evoking that feeling?
The funny thing is, it's actually easy to create those bombastic. The ideas are easy. Yeah. It's trying to fit them into where we're at in the story, what our character capabilities are, you know, what even equipment, where our mechanic ramping over the course of the game, like, am I really dexterous with the, you know, am I adroit with my rope, or am I just training it? So that affects like what kind of set piece you're gonna do. If you can reflect those kind of mechanic training with the set piece even, like that's even better. So where the character's at. And then like the 50-foot rock creature I wanted to get in Uncharted 1, it just didn't fit. I really thought that would be cool. I don't know why nobody went for the 50-foot rock creature. And jetpacks.
Jetpacks are always cool.
I can tell you,
Jetpacks, come on.
probably the best way to defeat a 50-foot rock creature is by wearing a jetpack.
Jetpacks, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, come
Yeah,
on.
just get around behind it. Hello. Is there a tension? Is there a creative tension between storytelling and? But this would be so awesome.
Oh yeah,
Like, and that
all the time.
Of course.
Yeah.
Especially on The Last of Us, with like it was a constant conversation. We would like, how far do we push this infection? We at one point we even said, is there even like do we have infected? Like what if we lost all them together and it's just there's a disease that kills people to keep it grounded? But yeah, it's a constant back and forth conversation.
You want somebody that argues for something. You want somebody that's like invested and wants to make it better. No, I want to make that, okay, cool, let's figure this out. And, you know, that's awesome to have those people.
Those conversations, those arguments always result in it being better. Every
always,
time.
Yeah.
And like Anthony was saying, it's part of our culture at Naughty Dog. You get that from everywhere. I mean, if something sucks, you're going to hear it, and from many people.
You know, a theme that emerges over and over again as I do these conversations is that you just want to keep making it better. Is there ever a moment where you can allow yourself, even if it's literally just for a moment, to feel proud of a thing? Just be like, all right, great.
I mean, I feel pride for the team all the time. Like when I am playing the game at the end and seeing it come together, and you can just really appreciate the hard work that I always put into it, and it's the genius of just every different discipline and how they've all created this amazing experience. So yeah, I feel pride for the team all the time.
Everybody's got their blinders on. You don't know what the person right next to you is working on sometimes. So to play the final product and then see, oh my God, this is so cool. There's so many people involved in this, and like what Particles did, what programming did, what the guy next to me did. It's amazing. It's really a beautiful concert that came together.
So let's go all the way back to Uncharted 2. How do you feel being part of the game that ruined movies forever?
Movies are never going away. Come on, your friend who is that's paranoia, man. No, I mean, video games are what video games are, movies are what they'll both do what they do amazing, you know, and we'll keep, the thing about video games is we're still young and we're still growing, and, you know, there's infinite amount of stories and there's a bunch of different mechanics that we can play with, so there's a wealth of there's a bunch of mining to do as far as the types of games yet to be made. So, I don't know, games are still evolving, but movies are safe.
The thing that we've, I guess, gained confidence in is that games can be at least as strong as film or TV or these other mediums that have proven that they can tell emotional stories. It's just we do it in a different way. That is all.
I do believe, though, I don't know, we haven't talked about this in a while, but it's like that, I do believe that the games have more investment in I'm sitting there with the controller in my hand and I am participating. Right. And the active nature of that means that I'm going to have a different reaction in the moment when the building is collapsing, or when I'm running from something, or when somebody who for a while we've been trying to create this character that's incapable and learning something, and then all of a sudden you give them that ability and they helped you on the stick, they're in the game and they do something and they shyly go like, did that work? And your protagonist character says like, that was awesome, and that's how you're feeling, and we try to match or parallel the player's feelings so closely with what's happening on the stick so often that if we can get that moment where you're thinking the same thing that happens in the game, that's beautiful. That little moment is all we're trying to really do with our character-driven games.
There's like the moment in The Last of Us, spoiler alert, when you think Joel's dead and you're playing as Ellie and you push the stick forward and you're now controlling Ellie, and you're like, oh my God, I'm Ellie. You can't recreate that moment in any other medium. That moment can only exist in video games.
Right.
I love the moment, by the way, when I've been boosting Ellie forever, and then all of a sudden I get boosted as Ellie. And I sat there for a second, I looked back down, and there's David, you know, and it's just like, this is awesome. Like, this felt great.
This is what
like,
it is on the other side.
Yeah,
of the
it's like
boost,
everything's flipped because my brain has been built to, and it's all about building those rhythms so that we can tweak them, you know, subvert that idea. And we try to do the same thing with our storytelling with characters, but then if we can get it on the stick and make you feel that way that the characters are feeling at that moment, your heart cracks open a little bit more with video games. But man, is it hard to get that. It is so difficult to capture those
and
moments.
there's no blueprint. It's like
That's actually very surprising for me to hear that it is that hard, and I guess it's because developers make it look easy to elicit an emotional response, and not just a emotional response, but the emotional response that's right for that moment from a player. Because I would imagine as a player, I'm invested in this, and that moment's going to pay off for me.
The thing that makes it so challenging is how to get that story across to you and keep you on the stick. Because if we take you out of it too much, you start losing that investment, you know? Right. So we want to deliver that emotional payoff, but do it in a way that's really graceful, where like you always feel like you're in control when you want to be, and we only take control away like when we have to.
Or when it's an ally, how do you make systems feel like a personality? How do we fool you? How do we make you think like, I'm here with another person and this person is reacting to what I'm doing, and it's all these crazy intricate system working behind the scenes, so she'll just say the right line at the right moment, or just stab a guy in the back to save you at this opportunity.
Or look at you. Like we do a lot of work with like head tracking and like when they look, when they don't look. Like as she's standing there, like not doing anything, does she gesture? Does she like clean her knife off and stuff? There's like all kinds of like little touches to bring those characters to life. But again, we have to do it in such a way that as you're shooting infected or running around, like those systems can trade off like really seamlessly. You know?
Do you work at all with psychologists to get that kind of emotional, like to find out how that's going to come?
Not professionally.
No, we don't. I mean, it's fun to watch TED Talks about synthesizing happiness by actually reducing the amount of choices that you have on a day-to-day basis. And that affects literally the design of some of our systems. You can do, it's that thing where sky's the limit. You know, we have more ideas than are necessary to get the effective response that we want from the player. So trying to choose the ones that are going to get the biggest bang for the buck and reducing it down so that you as the player don't get overwhelmed. So there's a lot of science involved, but it's not necessarily extracted, or we don't have relationships with people that help us with that. We just try to be mindful.
Like we'll go to seminars about like a storytelling seminar, or we'll go, if we could pick some cinematographer's brain about why they applied certain shots to certain scenes, or what emotion are they trying to evoke. We're constantly asking those questions. How could you take these theories that work in these other mediums and apply it to our medium?
Yeah, we've had people come in though. There's been times where Naughty Dog will have somebody from Pixar come by and talk about storytelling. There's books that we'll throw around. That's the cool thing also, is like passion, back to passion, like each individual. There's an animator that when we start talking like a cinematic language, when we're pushing for something, like we're using references of Coen Brothers film. And so we're studying, breaking down what Roger Deakins is doing so we can actually have that language in studio.
It's also interesting when we meet, like we met one of the writers for Breaking Bad, who was a big fan of The Last of Us, and we brought her in and just kind of picked her brain about how their writer's room work, what's their process, and yeah, there's a ton you can learn from other successful people.
So Naughty Dog has this reputation, well-deserved, I think, for historically creating gaming experiences that really resonate with players. When you set out to do this, like when it's like, all right, we're making games, it seems like a choice was made that games were going to be made that were narratively compelling, that had an emotional impact on players. When was that decision made, and if so, when?
I mean, I guess it goes back even to Jack and Daxter.
Jack X, right? I think Jack
X
X was the first. Combat racing was when we really...
No, I think we just sort of saw that video games, like Neil was saying, could be as good a storytelling medium as any other, and we started to learn the techniques, I guess, back on the PlayStation 2 with Jack and Daxter. We initially thought maybe it would be jarring for our protagonist to even speak because we thought the player wanted to insert themselves in the character. We learned that was a big failure, and Jack 2 introduced the voice for him. But even had a sidekick character, so we'd have the partner, and you could have the banter as you went through the game, and they could talk and share the experience together. So I think we just started building from there, and then I think when we got to PlayStation 3 and introduced the Uncharted franchise, I really felt the technology was finally there to tell a compelling story set in the real world and with human characters, and we could actually finally start to get expressions and emotions from our character models and have acting occur between lines of dialogue where you're sensing, somebody's expression in their face or their eye movement. And so now on the PlayStation 4, the technology is letting us go even further still.
Yeah, even Jack 1, we pushed for, the tech allowed us to do the first contiguous, contiguously strung together world, that you could move and roam around, like from the jungle over to the beach and to the village, and from that very, very first village that you start with. And, if you look at it, Uncharted is kind of the same. At some point in Uncharted, we always get you into this contiguous, just like you're on this train, you're just going to go. Mm-hmm. And so from moment to moment, it's just like you're on this adventure, and there's no stopping or pausing, and you're just gonna. It's kind of like a throwback to Jack and Daxter, as well as the characters and everything Nevin's talking about.
Like, building worlds instead of discrete levels. In Crash we had the warp room, and you'd go to levels. But on Jack we said, okay, we want to build a world, a real environment. If there's a building, you can go inside it. If there's a mountain, you can walk to it. And so I think we extended that.
Didn't Daxter get one of those awards for best characters or something like that? People love Daxter. People love
Uncharted 4 is going to let you take advantage of this terrific next-gen chipset, and the gaming industry has changed so much, and what we can do with our systems has changed so much. Do you feel like hinting at all about what we're gonna see, like how you might be taking advantage of some of the new capabilities we have, maybe deeper environments? Do you plan to do anything with sound design or?
The game's going to be really good.
Really?
Just overall, I think we're going to use the power of the PS4 to make it better, I think. Seriously,
do you find that you can do you have more narrative discretion just because you have more to work with in the guts of the machine, I guess is what I'm saying?
I think that's for sure true. One thing that we tried to do with The Last of Us, and it was really challenging because we pushed the memory of the PS3 to the limit, was have more open environments. We really wanted to give more player choice, a greater sense of freedom and kind of exploration in these levels. And that's something that's even better for Uncharted with Nathan Drake's incredible moveset and navigation and stuff. So one thing that we're definitely doing is we're opening it up a lot more, and the memory of the PS4 is really definitely allowing us to do that. Another thing that's super exciting is the fidelity of the characters is just going crazy now. We're actually doing real-time cutscenes in Uncharted 4, which is kind of like a new step for us.
Wow.
Yeah. So everything in the game, you're not going to see those black bars that we used to have in between gameplay and cutscenes, and that's going to let us be so much more expressive and really get that seamlessness between the storytelling and the gameplay, which we already do, I think, very well, but it's going to really allow us to take it to that next level. And also what that means is that that super great looking Nathan Drake that's in all the cutscenes, that's going to be the guy that you have the whole time, and the lighting model is nearly identical, and so all of that emotion that you get across in the cutscenes you'll have just in gameplay all the time.
Will I still have birds to tell me that I'm going the right way?
The yellow is follow the yellow everything.
Because my wife doesn't understand why every time we're out walking our dogs, if we walk past them, birds get out of the way. I'm like, oh, good, we're going the right way.
Yeah, on the right track.
We're on the right track.
I have those same moments that I was describing earlier with The Last of Us now. Walking around talking to different designers, and you have those moments with Neil and Story, and moments are starting to percolate.
Yeah.
Where, early on it was more like, how the hell are we going to do this? And now it's to the point that we're getting levels strung together with story together. Everything's starting to come together. Art's coming in. audio's, and everything's coming together, and there's those moments that are starting. They're percolating.
Yeah.
So all I can say is for myself,
Yeah.
it's starting to be a game that I want to play. It's one of those, and when we talk about like, that's going to be, oh man, that's going to be a really special moment right
Yeah,
there.
there's a lot of stuff that's really fresh and new, but still feels like a logical continuation of the Uncharted
Feels like Uncharted.
formula. Yeah, it really feels
it's like home.
Yeah.
It's like this is good, but better.
There's all these techniques that we picked up doing The Last of Us that we're able to bring over now, like the way people can gesture while walking around. You know, a lot of stuff that we can do to make things more seamless. A lot of stuff in how our guns work. You know, everything down to like stuff as mechanical as aiming and the way climbing works and the way some of our animations blend together. And so yeah, a lot of it, like Bruce is saying, feels like Uncharted, but just like stepped up another notch.
Yeah, like every project has like a crazy goal, right? With The Last of Us is like the relationship between these two characters. Can we earn that? With Left Behind, it was like showing the relationship between Ellie and Riley. Can we earn that? And here it's like telling the closing chapter of Nathan Drake's story. Is like I really feel like we're finally earning that. And like as you're seeing all the pieces come together, it's like that's really important for us.
It means a lot to me as a fan of your games to hear you say we need to earn that. I feel like it's so common for creative people to kind of get disconnected from the audience because you're so busy in the thing that you can lose that sense of like we really need to earn this moment. And nothing drives me crazier than a set piece in something and they clearly haven't earned it. I'm like, why did you do that? Like, come on.
Well, the thing is, we're all really big fans of our own games. Like, we all love Nathan Drake, and we kind of want to do right by him. And if it's like the closing chapter of his adventures, like that is really meaningful for us as well, you know. And we really want to do right by him and do right by the franchise.
Yeah, because we're fans. I mean, we play those games, and we're fans of that character and that world and what that franchise brought to us.
We want to be proud, and we want the team to be proud. I mean, it's all that stuff is all imbued in, you know, our perfectionism, all that stuff. It's like, yeah, we have to earn it.
Plus, Nolan North is really violent, so we have to...
I've heard that, boy. Well, listen, I am super excited to go and I'm going to go do an Uncharted replay as I get ready to finish out Nathan Drake's story. And I would wish you success. You clearly don't need it. Thank you for spending some time with me today, and I wish you the best of luck in whatever it is you choose to do next. Build that world.
All right. Yeah, we will. Thanks, Will.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Will. It's fun. What did you learn from this? So as you started the thing as like from Last of Us and Uncharted fan, what's your takeaway right now? Curious.
My takeaways for me are I wasn't sophisticated enough as a creator until like maybe 10 years ago to kind of put it all together. That like what I love about your games is they're all grounded in a reality in some way that I really care about, you know. I think I'm that kind of gamer, you know, like as I get closer to resolving the main storyline, it's like I don't want to turn the last page. I don't want it to be over.
PlayStation